Welcome to Deal to Heal with E. James podcast. On this podcast, my guest and I will discuss topics and ways to help us to heal in every area of our lives. I believe that everyone can live a life that is happy, healthy, and whole. So I'm on a mission to help people to deal, heal, and fulfill. Deal with your problem, heal from the pain, and fulfill your purpose. Thanks for tuning in. Let's get to it. Hey guys, real quick, before we jump into the episode, I need you to do the 3 S's for me. What is that? First of all, I need you to subscribe to the channel so that you don't miss an episode of our podcast. Number 2, I need you to share it with your family and friends. Don't keep it to yourself. Share it with someone else. Lastly, I need you to say something. Leave us a comment. Let us know how we're doing. Let us know what you want to see from us, what you like, what you don't like. We are open to your suggestions. We want to know everything that you want to let us know about the podcast. All right. Now, get back to the episode. All right. Welcome to the Deal to Heal with E. James podcast. I am your host, Earnest James, and I believe that everyone can and should live a life that is healed, whole, and healthy. Therefore, I'm on a mission to help people to deal, heal, and fulfill, to deal with your problems, to heal from the pain, and to fulfill your purpose. Thank you guys once again for tuning in to the Deal to Heal with E. James podcast. If you haven't already, make sure that you guys check us out on our new YouTube channel, the Deal to Heal Podcasting Network. Also, make sure that you guys subscribe to our podcast on all of your podcast listening platforms. Again, on our new YouTube channel, the Deal to Heal Podcasting Network, where you can find not only the Deal to Heal with E. James podcast, but you also can find the Girl Dad Discussions podcast, which is a podcast that I created in order to combat the narrative of the absent father and the fatherless daughter. So you guys can find the Girl Dad Discussions podcast and the Deal to Heal with E. James podcast that you are listening or watching right now on our YouTube channel, which is the Deal to Heal Podcasting Network. Make sure you guys are checking us out there. Also, I'm pleased to announce that our podcast is being sponsored by our Deal to Heal School for Living community on the school community platform. And this platform will help us to be able to continue our mission to help people to deal, heal, and fulfill. We have access to resources and workshops there to help you process your different emotions, different things that you are going through. You guys can check it out. The first 7 days is absolutely free. You can go check it out, see if you like it, see what you like. If you want to stay, it's only $27 a month. And each month you have access to a new workshop. Also, there's free resources there. So you can go there even during the trial period and check out the resources, the ebooks, different things that are there, download it. You can have it. And if you decide to stay, again, it's only $27 a month. So our podcast, the Deal to Heal with E. James podcast, is being sponsored by the Deal to Heal School for Living on the school platform. So you guys can go to the website or just scan the QR code in the upper corner and it'll take you straight there. So thank you guys in advance for checking that out. So today, just like any other day, I am blessed with the guest, Miss Kelly Morgan. How are you?
I am good. Thank you.
Thank you. No problem. Thank you for being here. Because you could have been doing anything else with anyone else, but you're here with me and my listeners, and I definitely appreciate it. So do me a favor, Kelly. Introduce yourself to my audience. Tell us a little bit about who you are and what it is that you do.
My name is Kelly Morgan. I am an indie author and ecosystem builder, meaning not only do I write books, but I really pride myself on creating rooms for authors to help them promote their books. And I do that through my podcast, The Author's Mic. I also have a podcast called BTA Fridays. I have a book club called the Indie Reader Society, the IRS. And just recently I created Curators of the Spine, a melanated bookish event, which was a live event here in Colorado. And the goal is to do more of the in-person stuff as well.
All right. So Kelly, let's go back a little bit, right? So I want to go back a little bit into your story because I definitely heard all the things that you do to promote other people as authors and things of that nature. But every story has a beginning point, right? Every story has a story behind the story or before the story, should we say. So let's tell us a little bit about your story, how you even became got into this authorship space and the supporting of others. What is kind of your story that brought you to this space? And then once you got there, that made you say, you know what, now I'm going to reach out to help others as well.
Yeah, so I didn't start off wanting to do any of this. I always have loved writing. So I've always written stuff. And when I found myself having some time, I thought, I'm gonna write a book. And I didn't know anything about writing a book. So I really thought I was gonna write this book. I was going to find a publisher immediately. I was going to publish it. And, 30 days later, I was going to be on book tour and I was going to be sitting there with Oprah and we were going to be talking about my book. And I just knew that that's what it was. That's because I didn't know anything else. And so writing the book was really fun. That was like the easiest part of this entire journey, was actually writing the book. And so when I got it all done, I started pitching it and I didn't know anything about it. So I started pitching it and got a lot of no's. And then one day I got this yes from this independent publisher who's like, yep, I want to publish you. And he just told me all these wonderful things. You're going to go on book tour, just everything that I thought. And then he hit me with the, how much are you going to invest? I just need you to buy the books. Only $700 because I'm covering everything else. And I thought publishers covered that, but I was like, well, I can do that. So I ponied up $700 of my own money. The book did get published. It was my first book, You Sound White. It did get published on his platform, and then he ghosted me. So I never saw any books. I never saw any royalties, and the book sat on his publishing platform on Amazon. So if it was selling, I didn't know because he just stopped communicating with me. So I had gotten completely scammed, right? And so I was done at that point. I was devastated. And I didn't know what to do because this man had my book. He wasn't returning my calls, my emails, nothing. And I had told everybody that I was going to be this published author. And so I was really ashamed. So I didn't say anything. I just kind of retreated and, I didn't know what to do. So finally one day I thought, well, I'm just going to try to get a literary attorney. And everybody basically laughed at me, except one attorney took pity on me and said, look, send this cease and desist letter. You can use my name. See what happens. Send it to Amazon, send it to him. And I did. And about 2 weeks later, Amazon released the book. And so I had the book back. Never heard from this guy again. Not sure what happened, but I had the book back. But I still didn't know what to do. Like, what do I do? And so that's when I decided I was going to start Bright-Headed Publishing and publish myself. Because I thought, I have a business degree. I have an MBA. I can do this. Can't be that hard, right? So I started this publishing company. And then somebody said, well, the best way to promote yourself is with a podcast. I thought, yeah, I'll start a podcast. And I started a podcast and it was called PHB Patio Book Club. It's like 5 years ago. And I started off interviewing other authors. And it took off in such a way that that's all that I did for like a year. I interviewed like 150 authors. And I burnt myself out. I didn't write anything. I didn't even promote my own book. That's all that I did. And I stopped again. And so this is when COVID hit. We ate our feelings, gained lots of weight, started journaling, wrote another book called Wait for It. It's a play on word, WEIGHT. And it's just about a story about this woman who goes through this weight loss journey, this journey that I actually went on, but I made it into fiction. And so then I thought, you know what? I'm gonna try this again. Because I always wanted to be this published author, right? I'm going to try this one more time. But this time, I'm going to be a little bit smarter. I'm going to really put a business plan and intention and what do I want to do? So I started off again. I really like the idea of helping others. So I decided to start off. I started off with just promoting myself. And then I decided to start the author's mic. But I thought, you know what, to keep it controllable, I'll make it 15 minutes, promote other authors, easy peasy, not a lot of stress. And I've been doing that for about a year. And then as I started marketing myself, I started falling down these pitfalls and just issues that I was running into. And I thought, well, it'd be nice if somebody would have told me about this, right? It would have been nice if I would have been able to know this before I went down this rabbit hole, so that I thought, well, you know what? I can be that person, right? I can let people
Mhm.
know. So that's what I started doing. And I started BTA Fridays, which is called Breaking the Algorithm. And it's all about different ways to promote your book outside of social media, because I think we get caught up in social media and
Yeah.
comparing ourselves and using that as your validation, right? And so I thought, there's got to be another way. And so I started BTA Fridays. And so every Friday, I come out with BTA Fridays with just a different way to help you promote your book. And through this, I started putting out free content. So next thing I know, I am now really helping others promote their books in ways that I didn't start off this way. This is not what I started to be. And then one day I thought, I'm not a publisher. I'm not an indie publisher. I'm an ecosystem builder, because I wanted book clubs to read my book. And I thought, well, you know what? Start a book club. So I did. Bright-Headed Publishing has a book club. It's called IRS. I wanted to do book signings. I'm here in Colorado. I did a few, not my audience. Couldn't really find some for melanated people. So I thought, you know what? There's not one here. Let's do one. So I did one. Found the venue, found the authors, and we did one. Had spoken word artists, the whole 9 yards. And I find myself creating spaces that I want to see and then inviting others. And so now I'm thinking, well, I think I'm an ecosystem builder. That's what I'm doing. I'm literally building an ecosystem. I have paid services on my website. I have a service called Trust Bridge, where I'm a recruiter by trade. I've been a recruiter for 20 years. Recruiters introduce people to people. That's what we do. I introduce you to the employer, make a match. It's a match made in heaven. That's what I've been doing with authors. I have a curated introduction service called Trust Bridge. Now, for a small fee, not a lot, because I'm not into gouging people for their money, because I know what that feels like. But for a fee, I will introduce you to book clubs, podcasts, and bookstores that are all curated, that I have in my Trust Bridge partner network. So these are people that I've gone out and built relationships with. It's not just me just pitching you and see what sticks. These are people who have agreed to see that the authors that I've curated, I create your media kit, I do the introduction, I do all the heavy lifting, I do all the follow-up, I do everything. So it's like having your own personal assistant do these things for you and help you get introduced. Now, once you get on the podcast, or you get your book gets in the bookstore, or the book club reads your book, that's on you. And where that relationship goes from there, that's completely on you. I am simply the introduction. I also have digital services on my website, author toolkit that you can go download. That was just information that I found very valuable when I was on my journey, that I thought somebody else might use. So everything that I'm doing, I've just done from experience and just wanting to help somebody else avoid those pitfalls that I went through. Because, man, every time I went through something, I thought, man, I wish somebody would have told me this. It would saved me a lot of time and a lot of headache. If somebody would have just simply told me without putting it behind a paywall.
Yeah.
Without asking me for something, I just simply want the information. And so I just simply try to give information. As much free information as I can give, I'll give. But there's a point in time where I have to eat and monetize as well. But I've spent a year and a half just building my platform. So that's a lot to say. I'll say.
Yeah. But I want to go back to a couple of things that you said, because I think it's important. And one of the things you talked about was basically creating the spaces that you want, right? And I'm a big community person, and everybody that listens to the podcast know I talk about communities, that I've basically built communities around everything that I love. And so last year or the year before, I started this campaign for myself, and I just shared it with others. But the campaign for myself was live the life that you love. And so I really started focusing on the things that I love in my life, and make sure that I'm spending more time doing those things, or building a community around those things. So I'm a podcaster. I'm in a podcasting community. I'm a speaker. I'm in a speakers community. I started hiking. And so I started a hikers group that started off with 7 of us, and now it's like 130 of us. I started running 5Ks last year. I did 2 5Ks last year. I started a community around that. So everything that I enjoy, I started building communities around. And so I definitely appreciate the work that you do with being saying, you know what, these spaces that I want to express myself in don't exist, so let me create them. And I think that's very powerful for all of us. One of the things I want to go back to, you mentioned a little bit about it, is the social media. When we start talking about promoting our books and things of that nature on social media, and kind of getting stuck in that place. But one of the things that I kind of know that you need to be seen on social media, or you want to be seen on social media, to make sure that your message is getting out and things of that nature. But one of the things that you talk about is tearing away from the need to be seen, and not necessarily for, I guess, not necessarily for the book itself, but for just like you yourself. So tell us a little bit about that and that process of you kind of moving away from, or should I say, unplugging somewhat from social media while still, having a business and things that you're doing as well.
Well, I wouldn't say that I necessarily unplugged. I think when I say the need to be seen, is I think as I was out here promoting my book, I found myself using social media as my validation. So I could spend 2 hours on what I thought was such the best post, right? I've put this stellar post together and I put it out on social media and I got 2 views and a like. That's it. You're thinking, man, what am I doing wrong? And so now you start doubting yourself, or you feel like you're screaming into a void. And so it's not so much, I don't care about being seen. It's about not using social media as my validation tool, right? And so what I've learned about social media is that, yes, it is important if you are marketing, if you're an entrepreneur, if you're a business owner. Yes, social media is a great way to reach people, give information, but it's not the end all be all. It's not where you should live. You should use it as a tool. And I know to some people, that's all they do. That's their only focus. And so my thing with social media is use it strategically, right? So that you don't feel like you're screaming into a void. Number one, if you're going to do social media, you can't be everywhere. So pick a few platforms and do those well. It might be Instagram and YouTube, right? It might be TikTok and Facebook. Whatever they are, do them well, because you can't be everywhere. You don't want it, and it's exhausting. You're going to burn yourself out, especially if you're trying to post content on a daily basis, right? And another thing too is that a lot of people will look and not necessarily like. So when you think you're not being seen, somebody is watching, somebody is looking. They may not be liking and they may not be commenting. And the more consistent you are, the more people will start to trust you and show up and expect to see you on social media. That's how you build content. Another thing I found is that people would go out and buy fake followers. So sure, tomorrow I could go out and buy 5,000 followers on YouTube or Instagram, but they're not real. So I'm all about real organic growth, and organic growth is slow. So if you're in this game long term, to be, and then that's another thing you have to decide is, how long are you going to stay with that book? Once you put it out there, how long are you going to show up every day? Because it's going to be quiet some days, right? Are you going to show up consistently talking about your book or whatever? Because consistency is key in social media. So for me, it took me a long time to come to this, but for me, social media is a tool in my toolkit, right, that I use to leverage to help me reach people that I may not reach and to bring me to audiences. But I also have to know who my audience is on social media. It's not everybody, right? So knowing who my book is for and then targeting social media for those audiences makes it less stressful that I have to be everywhere. I don't need to go viral. I don't need 1,000 people. I just need maybe five loyal people who will help me talk about my book, and it will grow from there.
Yeah. And I think that's the key, right? To finding those true supporters who support you. And, you could run your whole business off a handful of people, of true supporters, than marketing to the whole world, and so definitely with that social media thing, it's like, okay, why? I think we have to really kind of focus, sort of like, why are we here? Why are we in this space? And if you're in it for, likes and all of that stuff. That's cool, but that ain't necessarily going to equal dollars at the end of the
Right.
day. It ain't necessarily going to equal book sales at the end of the day. And so we definitely want to figure out why we're here, what we're aiming to accomplish with the social media space. I want to turn it just a little bit, right? So I'm definitely happy that you got your book, you got access to your book back, because that's has been one of my things, right? Especially with what is VA, using VAs, and just using regular people, but definitely using
Right.
like VAs, and giving them access to certain things to help you. Whether you're creating a book, or like so you see that I got the purpose journal
Mhm.
and the purpose planner, but I was working with someone I knew and I had a relationship with. So I kind of trusted him to kind of do the things that I needed to do. But just on the creative side, as being a author, as being a creative, that's one of the things I worry about. Like, look, man, I don't want to give somebody access to my stuff and my stuff disappear.
Right.
But I'm so glad that you got your book back. And the name of the book is "You Sound White," right? And that is a intriguing name. So I know there's a story behind it. So let's talk a little bit about the story behind that book, but then also the using of story as a way to kind of relieve some of the things that we've deal with or we've dealt with, not only to get it off of our chest to express it, but then allow others to be able to allow others to hear that conversation, for the fact that they might be going through the same or a similar thing, and be able to walk through that process with you as well. So let's talk a little bit about your book and the reason why you wrote it, and then those ideas of how it helps in those spaces.
You Sound White is not a memoir. Most people think it is. It's not. Now, the main character, the protagonist, um, all the things that happened to her and the other characters within the book have happened to me. I was born and raised in Salt Lake City, Utah in the 70s. And so not a lot of melanated people, not a lot of people of color. I mean, it's Utah. And so growing up and coming and growing up in those spaces, my vernacular is what it is, right? So I've always, I guess people have told me I sound white. I have had jobs where I've spoke to people on the phone and they just know I'm white until they meet me in person, and they're absolutely floored that I look like I do. Not to mention Kelly Morgan is a very strong
Yeah.
Irish name, right? So that doesn't help. And so, yes, this is just something I've always been told all of my life. And it wasn't until I became an adult and actually moved out of Salt Lake, and I moved to Oakland, and I've lived in Atlanta, and I've lived other places, and realized that my whole life I've been code switching. So the book is fiction, and it's an ensemble cast of characters, because that's how my mind works. All going, trying to navigate life, not being judged on how they sound, because people will judge you by how you sound, just alone by how you sound. I've been told I sound white, obviously, by somebody who is not white. So I've had Black people say, "You sound white. Why you sound like that? Why are you trying to sound like that?" I've had white people say, "You sound so proper. You speak so well." Those are not compliments.
Right.
You know what I mean? Those are not compliments. But I've also found myself code switching. So I have found myself, or I've caught myself switching up my vernacular. If I'm with a bunch of Black folks, I might switch it up so that I might sound more like them to be accepted. Because if I really come as my authentic self, they may not accept me. I have not been accepted simply by how I speak, right? Because they feel like I'm better than, or maybe I'm trying to be something that I'm not. But this is truly how I sound. I can't help how I sound. I was raised to speak very, very, very proper. I always tell them I have a very firm grasp of the King's English, and I'm not dumbing it down for anybody. But it took me most of my life to realize that I am authentically who I am. I'm not apologizing anymore, right? And that this is just what it is. And if you have a problem with how I sound, it's probably more your issue than it is mine. And if you're not a melanated person, telling somebody that they speak well is not a compliment, right? And if you are somebody of color, I found people, when I wrote the book and put it out there, I found people reaching out to me, relating to the code switching that happens in the book, right? And some of the experiences I could tell you, being the only person of color where I work, right? And I found that as an adult, being an adult working in Salt Lake City, Utah, having a degree and working in a corporate place, I would find myself being the only person of color, right? So people would relate to me by calling me Whoopi Goldberg. Or a lot of people that I would work with had never even been around a Black person. So I was their first encounter. So I wasn't like them, right? You're a good one. Or they would say hello to you and it'd be, hey, what's up to me? Do you know what I'm saying? I would get treated differently. And a lot of them, believe it or not, this blew my mind, really thought the images that they would see on TV, we all lived like Good Times and the Jeffersons, right? You know what I'm saying?
Even that is two different realities.
But that wasn't reality for all Black people, right? You know what I'm saying? That wasn't necessarily my reality. I grew up in the suburbs in Salt Lake City, Utah. I didn't know anything about the inner city of Chicago. Do you know what I'm saying? I mean, so it wasn't reality for everybody, but that's what most people that I grew up with thought that Black people were. So if you listen to a different type of music, because you were Black, you were put in a stereotypical box, and that's where you stay. If you color outside those lines, you're no longer Black. Now you're something else. And that's what the book is about. That's what You Sound White is about. And it poured out of me as fiction because it's easier for me to put my different experiences with different people in different situations. And I love fiction, right? I love a good story. So it came out as fiction.
Yeah, and I love that. I love that whole idea. And I'll be honest too. I first got your application to be on the podcast, I seen Kelly Morgan, and I thought you were a white woman just by the name until I started, we preparing for the actual thing, and I'm like, oh, okay, she's Black. You know what I mean? So yeah, I do understand that. And before, I think I may have been an adult before I ever ran into someone else in reality named Earnest, so I didn't even like my name growing up because I was like, I'm the only one named Earnest. Like you had always had, other guys with the same names or even of different nationalities that had the same name. Right. And so in my circle, I was the only one named Ernest. And even now, I think I know one white guy, one Mexican guy, and maybe one Black guy now that's named Ernest. So I definitely understand. I never had to do the code switching because I am in Chicago. So Chicago is definitely a nice mixture. But that's what I was saying, even with the reference of Good Times and the Jeffersons, even those two realities are so far apart,
right?
I mean, it's so different. So to throw everybody in that same box and be like, oh, this is what they're like, it's like, no, even your gumbo is different. You know what I'm saying? What you're throwing us in. So definitely can appreciate that. I'm definitely going to put the link to the book in the description, and definitely going to check it out myself, because even we had a quick joke while we were preparing and I was writing, and I was like listening to you as I'm writing, and I was like, oh yeah, what's the name of the book? You said You Sound White, and I'm like, who, me? I sound white? Like, I've never heard that. Like, no, that's the name of the book. I'm like, oh, okay, because I'm like, I've never had that one before.
Yeah, so and so I would get that. I've been told that all my life. To this day, I've been told that. I'm used to it now. It doesn't bother me like it used to, but yeah, it used to really bother me. Yeah. And so, and I used to really try to be what I wasn't to be accepted. And that wasn't working for me either. I am who I am. And, I have, it takes a long time to come into your authentic self, to appreciate who you are and not switch it up for anybody. my faults, my flaws, the good, the bad, all of that. It is what it is. And I've come to the conclusion that you will either accept me or you will not. I'm not going to try to be something I'm not to get your favor. I've done that in the past. It's never worked out for me.
Yeah, yeah, and I love that, and I think that's so important for people like myself and like you who are in the space of helping others, for us to be able to show up authentically ourselves as well, and to write the stories and to do the podcast so that people can hear themselves and be able to see themselves in some of the experiences that they go through. That was the whole premise behind this podcast, is to help us to heal in every area of our lives. And the reason I said every area, because I always say I haven't been through everything and I don't want to go through everything. So I'll stick what I went through, and for everything else, I'll find somebody else to talk about it. You know what I mean? But that was why I wanted to do this podcast. And again, 200 and some episodes we've been doing it, is because I wanted to be able to have people who could share their stories authentically, and then be able to share how they overcame some of the things that they were dealing with for our audience, because our audience is made up of a whole lot of different people, and it's like, all right, you may not have my experience, but then you may have had Kelly's experience. So how can Kelly's story help you to grow? And so I think that it's so important for us to share our stories, to write our stories, to do the podcast, to do the TEDx talks, whatever it is, just so we can connect with the like-minded people, or connect with those people who will only hear our voice. There's a lot of people out here talking. There's a lot of people out here with mics now. Mm-hmm. There's a certain person that each person will listen to. And so there's a person that's, waiting to hear our voices, whether it's in audio form or written form. And it's up to us to do that. So thank you for that work. I want to twist it up just a little bit before we get out of here, because again, we talked earlier about the social media, and we talked about, writing and everything, but there's a part of being a creative, especially when it comes to doing our books and putting our books out there and things of that nature. One of the things you talk about is breaking the I can't even say the word algorithm. I think that's how you pronounce it. but because, especially with the social media space, there's so much that is controlled by those platforms and by the systems that those platforms are set up, that it doesn't always work in our best interest. So one of the things that you talk about is just kind of like breaking those cycles, breaking out of that box of what the norm somewhat is. So could you talk to us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, so breaking the algorithm, BTA, breaking the algorithm. I always say, let's break the algorithm and put something better in its place. And what I say that is, I mean that, yes, social media is great, and that's a great way to reach people, but that can be just one lever that we pull. A way that we break the algorithm is maybe we don't adhere to the trends that are out there. So maybe by breaking the algorithm, we build our own community, right? Mm-hmm. And by building our own community, we can share the work with one another, and it gets out there, because the algorithm wasn't made for me or for you. The algorithm doesn't reward us. The algorithm rewards scrolling, right? It doesn't reward content, and trying to keep up with the trends and going viral isn't a book sell. If you are using social media to sell your book, following a trend or going viral isn't necessarily going to be a book sell. But using social media to connect with that one person, and maybe it could be you're connecting with them, sharing content on a personal level. So another way that we break the algorithm, like I do, I'm a master gardener. I love to garden. And I confuse gardening and book writing together. So I'm not just talking about buy my book, buy my book, buy my book. I'm showing you, here's how you can, write your book and keep your sanity at the same time. Maybe being an author is just not all writing. Maybe it's self-care too. That's how we break the algorithm. So maybe we break the algorithm by leaving social media, and now we meet in person. Do you know what I mean? There's all different types of ways we can leverage social media. Maybe it's this podcast. This isn't necessarily in the algorithm. And this is another way that we can break the algorithm. So to me, breaking the algorithm is not walking away from social media. It's not being a slave to social media. It's using it as a tool. It's a lever that you pull because your time is currency. Your book is currency. It's time consuming. So use it strategically. Like I tell people, I'm on social media every single day, but I'm not on social media every single day. I have content out there. Sure, I do.
Right.
But I post it all. I batch it. I've learned how to not let social media control my life, right? Because it's so important that I have the social media, but I also have the in person. I'm a real person, right? And I want people to know I'm a real person. So the more that I can push my business content out there, it leaves me time to maybe focus on Kelly the person, and now we can relate. So maybe you would have never have found me if you didn't find me through my gardening, right? Because that's how we relate. That's a personal thing that I can share that's outside the algorithm of what I'm doing as an author. So taking your personal life, not everything, but maybe you love to hike. So as an author, maybe we're not tired of hearing about your book, but as an author, we want to get to know you, the author, Earnest James. So maybe when you go run, you take us with you on a run and show us what that's like, because that's a part of your self-care when you're out there being you. And people like to know that you're really, especially with the word of AI, knowing that you're a real person going through the same things that I'm going makes it more relatable, and that helps us break the algorithm.
I love it. I love it. You're really encouraging me. I share with you. My goal is to have 2 books written and published by the end of the year. Hardcover books. I've written. Actually, I'll share them. I've written 3 ebooks right now that I'm proud of. One of them is called The Core 4, which is the core 4 values that every daughter should get from her father. As a girl dad myself, as having being raised in a 2-parent household and watching my dad raise my 5 sisters, I took a lot of that knowledge and my experience as a father to say, what are those core values that dads give to their daughters? And so I wrote the ebook, The Core 4, which is the core 4 values that every daughter should get from her father. Also, I've written an ebook called Forgiving Me, the 4-step guide to self-forgiveness. This book actually came in the midst of a workshop I'll talk about later that I do. And we were in that workshop. It was a forgiveness workshop where we talk about forgiveness and helping people learn how to forgive in different areas. And someone asked a question, and out of that question, this book was birthed, and is using the acronym of SELF in order to break it down and tell you how to forgive yourself first, even before you start forgiving others. And lastly, I have a ebook called From Males to Men, which is sort of like a male mentoring ebook for young men. So those are just some of the things that I've put the pen to the paper to do. But I've been working on this full project, and like I said, hopefully I want to have 2 of them done by the end of this year. I'm challenging myself and really pushing myself to get those done. I also have the journal and the planner, but those are journals and planners. They're not really stories. But that's my goal. That is my goal, to get these 2 books out this year. So I'm very inspired right now.
So yeah, I mean, I think everybody has at least one book in them. Everybody has a story. Everybody has a story, regardless if you're going to write it down. But if you do choose to write it down, and you do choose to write it down and publish it, then how you get that book into the people that you think it would help, that's a whole another thing that a lot of us don't think about, because we're all focused on writing the book. So you don't know what you don't know. But I'm saying that once you actually get the book out there, then you run into the whole world of, how do I get it out there? How do I get it into the right people? Because ultimately, I think every author wants somebody to read those words and appreciate those words.
Right. Yeah, definitely. Man, I'm so inspired, Kelly. I want you to do me a favor. I want you to leave us with a word of advice, inspiration, however you feel, right? And I also want you to leave us with your social media handles and your information where we can find you, find the work that you do, find your books so we can be able to check them out. I'll give you a couple seconds to think about that. To my audience, thank you guys once again for tuning in to the Deal to Heal with E. James podcast. Make sure you guys are checking us out on our main website, which is dealhealfulfill.org. Again, that's dealhealfulfill.org, where you can find out a lot of information of what we have going on. Make sure you guys are checking us out there. Also, I talked about some of the ebooks that I've written. Used to be on ebooks by ejames.com. They're not there anymore. I took them down, but I have put them in the Deal to Heal School for Living inside of that school community as a free resource. So when you guys go and check that out, you'll be able to download all of the ebooks for free. You can scan the QR code in the corner, and now it will take you straight to the website, so you guys can check that out. Deal to Heal Tees, which is our inspiration t-shirt line. Put some inspiration in your situation. Wear an inspirational tee and be inspired all day. That is our tagline. Make sure you guys go to healtees.com, dealtohealtees.com to check out our inspirational tees, including our podcast merch, which is our t-shirts with our podcast logos on it. Forgiveness Mission, the last couple of years, I've been blessed to be a part of an organization called the Forgiveness Mission. And what we do, we have free virtual workshops bi-monthly talking about everything surrounding forgiveness of self, forgiveness of others, forgiveness of the world, even how unforgiveness affects your body and your health. So those workshops are bi-monthly. They're absolutely free and they're virtual. So you guys can go to forgivenessmission.com to sign up for our next free virtual workshop, or go to Eventbrite and look up Forgiveness Mission or Forgiveness Workshop sponsored by the Forgiveness Mission, and you can find us there as well. So make sure you guys go check us out. Also, I am pleased to announce that we have started our nonprofit Deal to Heal the World Incorporated, and we are officially a 501c3 approved organization. So you can make a donation to help us to be able to continue to help our communities by bringing them free resources and free workshops to help them to grow as well. And you can do it at as a tax write-off for yourself when you make a donation. So make sure you guys go look in the description under this podcast to sign up, not to sign up, but to leave a donation. We'll definitely appreciate it. That being said, Miss Kelly, once again, I want to say thank you so very much for being on. Thank you for the work that you do and your expertise and your inspiration for me, because I'm definitely got to get to writing. But I want you to have the last word. I want you to leave us with a word of advice, inspiration, and your social media handles, where we can find you and how we can work with you. So the floor is yours.
So my social media, you can go to my website, which is brightheadedpublishing.com. There you can find all my social media. I'm on all social media, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. But you can catch everything at brightheadedpublishing.com. And if I were to leave you with any advice, it would be very simple. Listen to yourself first and others second. Somebody told me something, and it's very true. When you are on the right track, your intuition is very, very, very silent. Not silent, it's quiet. It will not yell, it will whisper. Your ego, however, will yell, and it will yell and yell and yell and yell and yell. I am telling you to listen to that tiny little voice inside of you telling you that's quietly probably pushing you forward. And although you may be afraid, step out on a leap of faith. Be your authentic self. Honor yourself first and others second. You will never lead yourself wrong. If you truly, truly listen to yourself, everything will be fine.
All right. We can't end it no better than that. To my listeners, thank you guys once again for tuning in to the Deal to Heal with E. James podcast, where our mission is to help you to deal, heal, and fulfill, to deal with your problems, to heal from the pain, and to fulfill your purpose. Until next time, you guys be blessed. Thanks for listening to the Deal to Heal with E. James podcast. Remember to listen, like, subscribe, and share. This episode has been brought to you by Deal to Heal Tees. Put some inspiration in your situation. wear an inspirational tee, and be inspired all day. Let's go to dealtohealtees.myshopify.com. Remember, our mission is to help you to deal, heal, and fulfill. Deal with your problem, heal from the pain, and fulfill your purpose. Thanks for listening. Hey guys, if you're enjoying this podcast, then I know you'll enjoy the Girl Dad Discussion podcast. I'm your host, Earnest James, and I believe the relationship between a daughter and her father is one of the most important relationships a young lady can have. And therefore, my mission is to promote the daddy-daughter relationship by sharing the voices of girl dads to the world. So check out our podcast on every platform where podcasts can be listened to. And if you want to watch the podcast, check us out on our YouTube channel. Again, that's the Girl Dad Discussions podcast with your host, Earnest James.